Hello everyone and welcome to BitTech Modding. I'm finally back from holidays and this means we can go on with a new project. As I mentioned in the previous videos, the new project will be a new ONDA build. A lot of you guys probably already know what ONDA means, but for the ones who don't know, ONDA is this build. It was made by me around 1 year ago, and it's probably the most popular project for me because of the unique shape and generally unique idea behind it. So it's a very simple idea in terms of design. It's basically 10 crescent moons mounted at a slight angle, which increases at every moon, and it's basically a floating design with components mounted to it. Obviously it won't be the exact same from the previous ONDA, which was my first one and kind of was a prototype. So let me go through all the changes that you'll see from the original prototype design. So the original ONDA was designed and made for the Hydra Mini case, made by Hydra, which is an Italian case manufacturer, and it essentially was some kind of accessory to the case. So the case was mounted onto the custom structure, which made ONDA what it is. This resulted in a very particular build which looks like a scratch build, but actually still is a case mod because it starts from an existing case. What I'm about to do with this ONDA is make it entirely from scratch. So the crescent moons, the base, the whole structure, and also all the mounting panels for the hardware. Those mounting plates will be made out of 8mm and 5mm aluminum, mostly 8mm, as I will show you soon, with the exception of the actual motherboard tray, which will be made out of 5mm, just because I don't need that extra thickness on that piece. In fact, the first difference on this ONDA will be the fact that there's no Hydra Mini case, it's all scratch built, but also the materials used will be different. In the first ONDA I made a couple of pieces out of 5mm aluminum, but it was my very first project made with the CNC, and I wasn't really very confident in cutting aluminum at the time, so I kind of tried to avoid doing a lot of that for that project. This time though I became very acquainted with cutting aluminum on my CNC, so it will be an interesting change from the first version. Apart from aluminum, another material that will be changed is wood, because I'm not going to use wood for this one. I'm going to use 15mm smoked acrylic. The smoked acrylic, I'm pretty sure all of you guys know what it is. It's essentially clear acrylic with a gray tone to it, so it's pretty dark and it looks very elegant. The 15mm thickness will give it the same sturdy looks and feel to it. Since acrylic is not a very rigid and solid material when it comes to structural parts, I still had to use an high thickness for it to accommodate for the low strength. It will still be fun to see if it actually feels sturdy once it's done. So in that regard, which is structural stability, I made another change to the design. In the first ONDA, I connected the moon structure, the whole thing, to the base using 8mm circular aluminum rods, and that required to drill the edges of the wood manually, which was a real pain because it was obviously made onto the radius of the moon, but I still had to give it a very precise angle, because otherwise it would nod back or forth, or either not fit at all, because there were 5 rods, 4 on the first 4 moons and the last one on the last moon, to give it more stability, because it was sagging a lot. So what I did with this ONDA is basically design those rods to be cut on the CNC using again 8mm aluminum. So they won't be circular anymore, they will be rectangular, and they will have mounting holes on the surface, and those brackets will fit into an 8mm pocket that will be milled on the crescent moons, so you will have a very flat and seamless look to it. This should give it a much sturdier structure, as well as make my life easier, kind of, because I won't have to drill the edge holes on the moons, which would have been probably very aesthetic on the acrylic, since you would have seen the actual hole through the material, which doesn't happen with wood, obviously. So let's come to some of the components that I will be using. Obviously, there's the very iconic ice ball from AlphaCool. There was a real MVP on the first ONDA. Everyone asked about it, so it's back. There's this 1TB FireCuda 520 M.2 SSD. I will be using chrome tubing, still from AlphaCool, chrome fittings. As for the motherboard, I will be using an ROG Strix X570i Gaming paired with a Ryzen 7 5800X. As for the power supply, I will be using a Corsair SF750, because obviously it's a very tight space, even though it's open, and it needs an ITX motherboard and an SFX PSU. Then I will be using this gorgeous Trident Z Royal Elite from G-Skill as RAM. It's a 16 gigs kit at 3600 MHz. Then there's this AlphaCool Iceblock XPX Aurora Edge for the CPU water block, and a 3070 graphics card from Zotac, which already has the AlphaCool block mounted to it, and it's the short version, so it will look pretty neat. There's also an option to make a bigger plate for the graphics card on this new ONDA design. It was actually originally designed to house up to like 29 centimeters graphics card, but I found this graphics card which is shorter, and I decided to make that mounting plate a little bit shorter, just for the sake of looks, because otherwise it would have had an ugly empty space under the graphics card. As with the previous ONDA, obviously it will have a 36mm radiator, which is right there. I forgot to put it here, but it's there, still from AlphaCool obviously. And I will probably use LL120 fans from Corsair. I know you guys like the action, so I'm not going to waste a video for just the presentation, but we're actually going to mill the first aluminum plates on this video. So let's pop some 5083 aluminum on the CNC and let's start cutting. So here's all the parts cut. I'll just quickly go through what each of these is, and then we're going to do something else on some of these, which is some edge drilling. So this is the new bracket for the ice ball. The ice ball obviously comes with a pre-made one, but it doesn't look very good, so this is my version. This is the motherboard tray, kinda cute, and this is made from 5mm as the reservoir bracket. This one right here is one of two parts that will be composing the base or the pedestal of the ONDA. The other part is an acrylic piece made out of the same 50mm smoked acrylic that will be going below this one. These two are the brackets that connect the ONDA structure to the motherboard tray and all of that other stuff. This one will also hold the GPU bracket, which I'll show you shortly. And this one will help hold in place the radiator bracket. Then there's these four. These are for the first 4 moons. They will basically connect the moons to the base slash pedestal of the entire structure. And this is just a longer version that will be going into the 10th moon, so the last one, to increase stability and the general rigidity of the entire structure. These two are two brackets for the GPU. This one is obviously the mounting plate, which will be fixed, as I said before, right about here, like so. That's one of the parts where I'll drill some edge holes. And this one will go at the farthest point from here, just to hold the GPU in place and avoid it from swiggling around. Then this is the rad bracket. Yeah, it's a 360mm radiator with just a 120mm bracket. It will be more than enough to hold everything. This will have some interesting edge drilling, because I'm going to drill also on this face, on this edge, as well as on this square edge and the opposite one. And lastly, this is the PSU bracket, which will also have some edge drilling done to it. So the way I approach edge drilling usually is firstly marking out where the hole needs to be. Then I use this thing, which I think it's called an hole punch or punch hole, something like that, which basically is a spring-loaded bit which creates a guide for the hole. Then I have to think about the fixture for the plates. And for smaller pieces like this, the Bosch drill press will do just fine in terms of clearance, vertical clearance. And I usually use either some pieces of wood like this, and or this thing, which is a pretty beefy piece of aluminum extrusion with an air profile, which comes in really handy when doing like DIY and improvised fixture with clamps and all that stuff. So let's get started and see how it goes. So here we have it. I just quickly put it together, all the parts I made. There's still a couple of holes I need to make, but I ran out of time for today and I have to get to edit this video. So we'll see that in the next episodes. Also, it still have all of the protective film. It's all dirty. Essentially, it's just a mock-up of the finished product. But here you have it. So the radiator will mount here and will go all the way to the 360 millimeters of length. Down here there will be the power supply, the motherboard and the graphics card. One of the parts I didn't have time to make the holes on is the little GPU bracket, which will sit in proximity of these holes. So here, like so. It's pretty cool, it's pretty neat, it's pretty compact. I think with some tweaking it could even work as a standalone case, I think. It's pretty cool. But yeah, this is all for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If so, please subscribe so you don't miss the next episodes. And also don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Builds.gg, Discord, and check out our merchandise shop, all links in the description. So thank you guys for watching and see you next week.